Indrani, and it is such a pleasure to have you with me and to have a chat as a new immigrant and learn about your experiences.
Well,
Yes, so go ahead and
well, good.
introduce yourself.
Well, well, good afternoon, Indani. It's a pleasure to be here as well. Thank you for this opportunity, and well, at least this opportunity to share whatever I have learned in the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm
So
here.
let's
So
start then.
let's get
Yeah,
started. Yeah.
yeah. So tell us, when did you arrive and what made you
hmm
make this move? So first of all, this is where it starts. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So I landed here in June of 2020. That was say mid of pandemic, by the way. So I wasn't very sure at that point of time if I would be able to land at Toronto Pearson Airport. And but anyhow,
Mhm.
and back then in India there was like a complete lockdown, and luckily somewhere in the month of May, Prime Minister Modi, he announced that there's going to be Vande Bharat flight, and so I saw the opportunity, and immediately I took that opportunity, and like I booked the last flight going out of New Delhi,
Okay.
and I boarded that. So yeah, and why I made this move. Well, I when I say this, I think I would probably resonate with others as well. So I wanted to establish my personal life and my career as an aerospace engineer.
Okay.
And by the way, Canada has world's third largest aerospace industrial complex in Montreal, in Quebec.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
and besides this, once I had got my permanent residency visa back in January of 2020, I told my bosses and my organization, back then I was working with HCL Technologies, they wanted to put me through their two on-site posting in Montreal, by the way, again. However, due to global pandemic, the plant went south, and I guess life had other plans.
Okay. So you said that you came in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And, so I know that you had COVID as well. Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about that.
So I think 5 days, 5 days after I landed, I started getting those symptoms of COVID, cough, cold, fever, slightly shortness of breath. Initially, I took it a bit lightly, and I was like, it might be just a common flu, common cold. But I think on the 10th day, I remember I was on call with my family. I was like, you know what? I just can't take it anymore, and I am going to the hospital. This is my Uber contact detail. And by the way, back then I didn't even get my SIM card, uh, and I wasn't sure even how to get it either.
That must have been
So
scary.
yeah, I was uh, scared because there was very little information available about COVID and how to deal with it for that matter. So yes, I was apprehensive about that. But anyhow, I went to Trillium Hospital in Mississauga, and that was my first brush with the Canadian medical system. So I was standing in the queue in the triage area, and then after, thankfully, it was a short wait as compared to today's times.
Okay.
A nurse came by and she was like, she's like, you know what, son, please move towards the COVID testing area. We're going to test you for that, and let's see if you don't have COVID, then good for you, and then we'll treat you normally. Otherwise, it'll it'll have a different course of action.
Oh my God. And then you did.
Yeah, I tested for COVID. The next day, there was an agent from Health Canada. That person called me and he told me that, sir, you have COVID. And initially, I thought there was prank call. And why I thought this was a prank call? Because um, I had on the blogs I had seen that there would, people or new immigrants would usually get these calls from CRA, Health Canada, and where they would ask people for their social insurance number and other financial details. So I thought it must have been a prank call. So my first question is this a prank call? Like, no, sir, this is not a prank call. You have got COVID. So yes, I was a bit shocked. I didn't expect that was going to happen, but yeah, 5 days into Canada, that was quite a Canadian, not a Canadian welcome, but then quite a welcome it was, and
Absolutely. What a memorable start.
quite a memorable start. And but then again, thanks to I would say your uncle and a lot of or other people from our community, they banded together to support me that let's get the kid home cooked food, if possible certain medicines. And so that was more than that, it was a kind of a mental boost that okay, that somebody is there uh, to know that what's happening in your life when you're
That's
in a new
exactly
country
what I
coming.
wanted to actually ask you. That um, after you landed here,
Yeah,
I presume that you didn't know many people.
yeah,
With a very small social circle, or perhaps only one or two acquaintances,
yeah.
um, uh, did you get that kind of support that you needed at that point of time? And by the looks of it, it seems yes, you did get some sort of support
Yeah,
from extremely unknown quarters, if I may
yeah,
say so.
absolutely.
So it's the kindness of people around you, and so it sort of made you sail through this bad time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so like I said, people from our community. Then I had a few friends from my back from my own college days. So those guys, they had settled here in Canada for like at least a decade.
Okay.
So some of them, they came through that okay, somebody would like, hey, you know what, my wife has prepared some ghar ka khana for you, and so here is the thing, here is some masala for making kadha, so please have it, please have it, please mix it just with hot water and have it. So even those small gestures, then there was this one auntie, she gave me this whole bunch of food, like okay, have this vegetarian food. And so I think more than that, I think even my family back home in India, they were kind of worried that okay, how is my son going to sail through. And I think that put their mind at ease that okay, there are people around Sitangshu, and things are going to be fine, I guess, that way.
That's really nice.
So for that, I am extremely um, grateful. I mean, probably yes. Even without that, I may or may not have survived. I don't know. But then, given the fact that support was there, and it was there at that point of time, doesn't matter in what quantity. It's a quality which matters, and people were there, and that's what matters the most.
Awesome. So now, keeping behind the COVID story,
Yeah,
so what kind of preparations did you do before landing here? Did you at all make any preparations?
sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so as you know, in previous occasions we have discussed that I landed here through express entry program of PR, permanent residency. And so my preparation started from like back in, I would say, February 2019. So I'm talking preparing for IELTS, preparing my documentation, going through each and every web page which IRCC had there. And back then, like when I was doing that, so my father told me that you know what, go through a consultant, you won't be able to make it through. So I was like, look dad, i I have approached a few consultants, and back then I was in Bangalore, and each consultant would charge about 1.5 lakh. So I was like, look, that much amount of money I can probably put it towards my proof of fund rather than giving it off to them. But he is like, no, 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 let's take an expert's advice. I took him there to one of their offices, and when he asked him like, okay, what kind of support we can get from you? So it was like, oh, no, basically your son has to get us a document, we'll help him arrange it, and he has to give all these letters. So my father kind of realized this is not exactly a scam, but then this is kind of a hogwash kind of a thing which is going on. So pretty much thanks to YouTube videos, blogs, my own research, and reaching out to people who are already here in Canada, that is the sort of preparation I'm talking about. Understanding the way of life out here, that kind of helped me mentally prepare what I'm going to go through, and of course that PR application, the documentation, like I mentioned. So that's one thing. Second thing, very quickly, I want to mention that. Um, if you do not know the job market, you better start researching on the job market and the art of getting a job. So in Canada, the art of getting job, not it just doesn't work upon skills, but it also depends on the networking. Knowing people matters a lot. And when I talk about networking, I'm talking about an organic networking, like online, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe on Instagram or Facebook. Not a kind of a forced networking where where you just add a person on LinkedIn and you kind of like bombard him or her with requests. Hey, can I get a job from you? Not that kind.
That never
um,
works.
it
Yeah.
never works. It
Never
never
works.
works. So even before I landed here, I started networking like at least like 8 or 9 months in advance of my landing.
Okay.
So that, but then again, like, it was like very specific towards aerospace industry because that's where I wanted to go, at least back then. And another major aspect is like how much funds you want to carry. So you should have an idea that, and again, the Canadian IRCC website would give you that idea, but having that idea that how much you want to spend and how much you want to carry would definitely help you, especially when in the initial days when you don't have a job. So that's another aspect. Location wise, also where you want to live. So
Yeah,
even
that's
before
exactly
landing,
what my next question is. I'll cut you there. My next
no,
question
no, no,
is,
that's okay.
how
That's
did
okay. Go
you
ahead.
sort out your logic? Uh, like, did you go house hunting after arriving here, or did you kind of arrange for a house while you were in India? Give us a sense of your settling down, basically, and how
Okay.
much time did it take to get comfortable? To
Okay. So I'll say this outright. Finding a house here, especially if you're in Toronto GTA, it's a challenge for any newcomer. I can assure you that like it can it can it can get quite bothersome at one
absolutely,
point of the
I,
at
I
one
know
point or other
I
time.
know that personally.
So
Through that ordeal as well. Yeah.
so so before I came here, like I said, I didn't even know if I would be able to land or not. So the at least the housing part was was kind of a last minute kind of thing because of the rush which happened. However, back in my mind, I kind of had decided that where I wanted to live. So my options were very, very specific that, okay, since anyhow I'm not going to land in Montreal, I might just stay in Toronto downtown, Etobicoke, or Mississauga. Because again, Mississauga has again great industrial areas, companies, just like Toronto as well. But at the end of the day, I settled in Etobicoke because it's like you can access both the cities, and it's like it's right in the middle. And again, it has like good amount of terrain, natural parks, and stuff like that. So that kind of helped me make that decision. As my friends were here also,
Okay.
like that. So I chose Etobicoke
Yeah.
that way.
Okay.
So my first house was an Airbnb, which was just a room in a dilapidated condition. So to our friends who are listening out this one, please make sure that you just don't believe on the photographs. If you have somebody, please ask them to check out the location. And once my COVID, so that COVID duration, also the COVID recovery, I had to spend in that Airbnb place. So once that was coming to an end, or that came to an end, I probably just had a week's time to look for a house. And I think almost out of the 7 days, every all the 6 days I went out from morning till evening looking for house. Mississauga, Etobicoke, downtown, even till Scarborough I went. And and again, my sources were websites like Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, the rent.ca. So similar websites like this. But I would say Facebook Marketplace is some Facebook, not only Facebook Marketplace, it's the communities or the Indian communities very specifically, which are there on Facebook, that came through for me. Because that's how I got in touch with an Indian Bengali family in Etobicoke. And by the way, they run a YouTube channel called Namaste from Canada. So I got in touch with them, and it was an instant connect. And the very next day, I went to their house, gave the deposit, and everything was clear. However, even after going there, it took me at least, I would say, 7 to 8 months to find my bearings within the city and to understand what is accessible to me or not. I would rather say,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So you basically would suggest people go look for places in Kijiji Marketplace, and specific groups.
Exactly, because all these
Also, I
groups
want
which
to add here,
Mhm.
when I was new, I didn't know that real estate agents do help you look for a renting place, and
True.
you don't have to pay them. That is something that I didn't know when I was really new. So this is something that just, like, just to add my bit here. Uh,
No, you are absolutely right.
you
And the ones
any
in my
help is
second
good
house,
help. Yeah.
no, it does for a few people. Yes, it does help. I agree.
Yeah.
But for people who are looking for house and budget, especially like newcomers like me,
Oh,
um, even in my second house hunt, I reached out to a real estate agent,
okay.
and everywhere I went, that person was showing me the house, and all the owners like, okay, we need the first and last month, and we need like advanced
Oh,
check for the
yeah.
next 10 months. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you
That
might
is
as well take
not
the month for the
without
whole year.
problems, I would say. Of course,
Yeah,
this is another story altogether, like, to kind of go for house hunting with a real estate agent. But
that's a story, different story
that's a
altogether.
story in itself. Yeah. So we'll quickly, very swiftly move to our next one.
Yeah.
That is, did you have a job in hand? And
No.
were governmental resources available and helpful to you? Um,
Okay.
if at all you
So
access them.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, let me divide this answer in two parts. So yeah, no, I didn't have a job when I landed here,
Okay.
and but yes, I was actively searching for a job in my own field of aerospace engineering, and every recruiter that I would contact, they would say that directly or indirectly, they would say that, sir, you do not have a Canadian experience. At first, it was very confusing, as I believed that my international work experience would be accepted, but contrary to popular belief, it is not. The only exception here are the folks from the IT industry. If
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
if you are coming from IT industry, doesn't matter from which part of the world you are, you definitely have a place in the Canadian IT industry. That is something I've experienced it firsthand,
I
because
can vouch for that as
yes,
well.
because your husband is there in the IT industry, so you know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So and this is also another reason why I decided to pivot my career towards IT instead of staying in aerospace engineering. Now, to answer your question about the governmental resources, so any new permanent resident, they will have access to these immigration settlement agencies, where they would run programs very specifically to the job industry that you're related to. So you can be from mechanical engineering, you could be from a project management industry, and etc etc. So they would run these programs, and by the way, some of these programs are also sponsored by Google and Microsoft. So you can so it's almost like cherry picking, reaching out to these settlement agencies, registering yourself with either one of them, because once you're registered with one, the other agency will not basically go ahead with your file. So do that research, see which one fits the bill, and they would run these programs anywhere from between 1 week to 3 months to prepare you for the Canadian job market. So that includes resume building, preparing for the interview, giving those elevator pitches, and of course, at the final part of that program, it would be these networking rounds. I think I would probably be going back and forth with this networking thing.
Absolutely.
Um, and yes, at the end of the day, there would be rounds of interviews related to your job, and that's how you kind of land in one of your first jobs. At least I did. That's how I did. So yeah, so definitely those immigration settlement agencies, they do help. And other than that, even say for example, if you are, say, short of money, there are government agencies which help you sail through during those tough times also. So that's there.
Very important information that you have given to us now. Um, uh, it is hard to kind of sum up difficulties or good times,
Yeah.
especially when you've had many months in this country. But I would like you to kind of really put it as one, two, three, the difficulties that you generally faced
Hmm.
as a new immigrant.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that the journey has been challenging so far. So, right from the time getting that Airbnb to getting my first proper job. So, yes, the first challenge would be getting the job, getting that feel of the job market. That is the first challenge which every new immigrant will get. Second would be understanding the medical system. uh, again, this comes from my own COVID experience, because the Canadian medical system is way different from what you may have experienced in India. Third thing would be the way of life in general. And so far that I have seen, Canadians, they are very open and receptive. And but then again, when it comes to being critical, they are not very critical. So there's something, I call it a Canadian sandwich. So if they have to be very critical of you, so it the first thing would come as a compliment, then comes a critical part, then another compliment. So that's your Canadian sandwich. So um so understanding where um you have gone wrong is also critical aspect. Reading that room when you are with people from, not only just Canadian, understanding, reading the room when you have people from different diasporas and people from all around the globe. So for me, those were the three main challenges. And but yeah, over the course of time and talking to people, I have overcome that.
Excellent. Uh, Coming to what could have been or should have
Mm.
been more accessible to you, do you have any thoughts on those? Anything that, when you look back, though it has just been a few years, but
Yeah.
could have, are there moments where you probably think, I wish this was accessible to me, or I knew this beforehand, I could have charted a different path. Are there moments like that, or no?
I my That kind of moment came by when I was sick, or even when. So I haven't added this. I should have added earlier. My apologies for that. So one of my first job was working in an Amazon warehouse here. So since I was anyhow looking for a job, I was like, okay, I have to stretch every penny from my proof of funds. So why not get a job? So I got a job in Amazon, and during that point of time, I had a leg injury while working. So in these COVID incident, in this workplace injury, I got that feeling that the Canadian medical system can be a bit better, and I really wish I knew that, because in India, if I have to approach a doctor, I can just walk up to a doctor, maybe get an appointment, and that's about it. I know I can reach out to a specialist. But in Canada, there is something like a wait time, which again depends on the severity of the patient's condition. And so it's like the patient is not going to die to the point where the patient is going to die. So the patient is going to die, he or she is going to be at end first. So I really wish I knew that medical system. That would have probably like helped me prepared mentally. But unfortunately, I did not know that. So that's my only gripe per se. And again, with respect to the job, people, I learned a hard reality about the so-called Canadian experience. When the recruiters were telling me that, okay, that you do not have Canadian experience, they were essentially saying that, okay, you haven't invested enough yet in the Canadian job market before you reap the benefits of it. So
Okay.
you only have two ways of getting Canadian job experience. A, you actually get a job, or you go to university, back to school, where the Canadian industry would recognize your efforts that way. So I think those are the two things I really wish I knew beforehand.
That's again a very crucial point that you raised, extremely crucial and noteworthy. Um, in a nutshell,
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
nutshell, is there any kind of, um, what do you call, tips, anything that you would like to tell the immigrants who are contemplating a move?
So, okay, first understand your own financial conditions back in India or from wherever you are coming. If you are already having a comfortable life, and if you wanted to throw in a number, say for example, if in India somebody is earning more than 1 lakh rupees, believe me, you really need not come to Canada. Plain and simple. I'll be straight up honest with you. But if you do wish to have a comfortable life, um, despite me cribbing about the medical system out here, the medical system is fantastic actually. The quality of life is good. The weather is amazing out here. The people are nice. And like different small different things that you never actually got to appreciate, but then after coming here you did appreciate. So those are things which I have come to love about Canada. And if those are the things that resonates with you, then by all means come to Canada and establish a career for yourself here and for your family as well. And to cracking a job per se, I would always say network. That is the key thing which I believe it has always worked out for me. So starting from the fact that I knew people in my own industry, to the point where I knew people in the immigration settlement agencies, they connected me to other people. Then when I went to Queen's University, so I guess I mentioned earlier that I had to pivot my career towards IT, towards data science. So I went to Queen's University at Kingston. I went through Masters of Management Analytics program. Even there, so we would not, me and my colleagues, we would leave no chance to network with the industry leaders. And that not only gave us a good perspective that how the industry runs in Canada, but it also gave the industry leaders to know what is the students' capacity and capability. So, and again, if somebody knows you already inside a company, then it makes your life a little bit easier to get that first step in the door. So, hence networking.
Last but not the least, any parting word, or you just in your last answer mentioned that I really appreciate small stuff. What are those small one thing that you would like to tell us?
Small stuff. Okay, so back when I was in India, I was there in Bangalore, and when I say this, I love Bangalore. To be very honest, it is an amazing city. But then yes, traffic is horrendous. Driving in that traffic is it's an equally challenging task. But when I came here, people actually stop on the red light. People actually get to cross the pathway on the zebra crossing. Um,
Absolutely, the discipline that you see on the road.
exactly, you see that discipline on the road.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's one more thing. I think I forgot to add, and I should add it by the way. As a permanent resident, there were days when I felt like I have no food. I'm short on money, or I'm seeing that my bank balance is like getting depleted pretty fast. So then I got to know that there is something called as food bank. So yeah, I went to these food banks, and
So there are
they and
helps
exactly,
everywhere.
though that help is
You
always
just
there.
have to
And
know the information is very vital again here. You just have to
exactly,
know.
exactly, and that's the reason we are talking also.
Yes, absolutely.
So
That's
so
exactly
that so that people, so that our listeners, they get to hear this.
yeah, absolutely.
So so I don't think, had I been in India in that condition, yes, support would have been there, of course. But then had I been alone, I don't think so that kind of support I would have
True,
got.
absolutely. Yeah.
So so these are the small things which makes me appreciate my journey from India to Canada, and the journey that I have gone so far.
I had a pleasure talking to you. And I know that there are quite a few takeaways. And I'm sure anybody listening to you would also have many, many takeaways. Thank
I
you
hope
so
so.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Indrani. It was a pleasure
Bye.
talking to you. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good one.
You too.
Cheers. Bye.